So, my name is Jennifer. I am the owner of Accessible Escapes, and I'm also the administrator of the COVID Safer Travel Buddy Network Facebook group. Um, and I specialize in vacations for those who need mobility assistance, are immunocompromised, or taking virus conscious precautions, or COVID cautious, have allergies, or have a chronic illness. All travelers are welcome. I take COVID precautions myself in my daily life, and I also suffer from long COVID um, and a host of other medical issues. Just checking 1 second. Okay. Here's just a QR code for my blog. It's where I post monthly advice topics on various advice on various topics. And it's on Substack, but I also post it. I know some people don't like Substack, so I also post it to my website. And just a PSA to get started, none of this constitutes as medical advice. I don't claim that taking similar measures on a cruise means that you will not get COVID or other illnesses. There's no way I can guarantee you won't get infected with any disease on any type of vacation. I also don't recommend cruising if you are uncomfortable masking for long periods in an enclosed environment with a crowd. I know cruising isn't for everyone, and I'm not going to push cruising as like a sort of thing for people who aren't interested or are not comfortable, especially with shared spaces and a lot of people in an enclosed room. Okay, so for the start, I'm just going to go over some common misconceptions of cruising and then also a couple of studies. A lot of that is taken from a blog post I wrote in 2025, but there are some updates, so I wanted to go over that. So the first misconception is there are more outbreaks on cruise ships than on land, and the truth is you hear more about outbreaks on cruises because they're more closely monitored than on land. So the CDC requests that cruise ships submit a cumulative ARI. I forget what the A means, but it's a respiratory infection. So it's for respiratory infections, all respiratory infections, not just COVID, preferably within 24 hours before arrival in the U.S., and it is considered an outbreak if more than 3% of passengers are sick. And I also wanted to point out that the vessel sanitation program that runs this was unfortunately gutted, and it is unknown if the CDC program is working as it did previously, so not exactly sure if that's what they're still doing. Just wanted to point that out. Also, all of these links and all of these sources I will post on the Facebook group after I'm done with this presentation. It's hard to sort of cite your sources when you're doing a presentation in a way that people can just take them. So I will put it up on the Facebook group afterwards. If you're not a part of the Facebook group, I have my email at the end, and just let me know, and I'll add you. Okay, so here's a quote from an article I found. It says, Captain Luis Rodriguez, the acting chief of the CDC, reported more cruise ship outbreaks in 2023 than 2022, but there was also an increase in shoreside cases during the time. And she says that the CDC directly tracks illnesses on cruise ships, so cases are found and reported more quickly on a cruise ship than on land, which relies on state and local health departments to collect data. Misconception 2, air is circulated between cabins, and air circulation in general is poor. So the truth is, every cruise I've been on, air is not circulated between cabins. And I think this is true for most of the major cruise lines. Cabins, according to one study, cabins are the least likely spaces to spread infection and are extremely well ventilated, albeit too well ventilated, in that particles spread further if someone in your cabin is infected. Most notably, the study found the probability of airborne infection transmission during normal speaking conditions to be very low at less than 3%. And then another article found that the central air conditioning system and drainage system of cabins did not play a role in the famous Diamond Princess 2020 outbreak that occurred at the start of the pandemic. Air circulation has also improved since the start of the pandemic. Royal Caribbean, Norwegian, and Virgin has done a really good job. They've have updated their air filtration systems to include air purification, like bipolar ionization. And then Royal Caribbean specifically updated their filters with MERV 13 filters, which takes out airborne particles or viruses. Sorry. Misconception 3 is that there's nowhere to eat. Obviously, the biggest risk on a cruise ship is eating in the main dining room and eating in a enclosed space where you have to take off your mask. But there are alternatives, and I am perfectly fine with doing the alternatives. I don't mind missing the main dining room or like all of that indoor eating. So there are many outdoor dining venues. They generally vary by ship to ship, as opposed to cruise line by cruise line. But there are many types of outdoor dining venues. You have casual dining venues, and then on ships, some ships like on Norwegian, they also have specialty dining options where you can actually eat outside. Most cruise ships also offer in-room dining. Some ships, like luxury lines and then select premium lines like Holland America, offer in-room dining services for free. So most ships, they offer in-room dining, but you have to pay a fee in order for them to, it's like a delivery fee. Excuse me. But with Holland America and a few other luxury lines, they offer it for free. So here are some new articles that I found since I posted my blog post in 2025. The first one is what I talked about the lack of transmission between cabins on the Diamond Princess. This one was interesting. It says that exposure to port-derived particles facilitates the replication of COVID-19 in cold viruses. Ports are dirty. I don't think that's new. And also just the exhaust and everything like that. There's also another one which says that infection risk for masked passengers was 14.58 times lower than for unmasked passengers and 19.61 times lower than in the community. So I'm just guessing that means like on land. Unmasked passengers was slightly lower than community risk, which is surprising to me, honestly. Even though I love cruising, that was surprising to me. And then this other one was also surprising to me. It says river cruises are riskier with less ventilation and less regulation. And that was from a study where they looked at a COVID outbreak on a 7-day river cruise in the Netherlands. Basically, the reason for that is because the CDC doesn't regulate it because they are on river and they have access to more on-land doctors and things like that. And then also their ventilation's not as good. There's often air comes in through the door from the hallway, kind of like a hotel. And then also air can be recirculated through the cabin, and also especially through like things like shared spaces. So that ventilation's not as great, and there's less regulation, which means that basically they don't have to report it if there's a huge outbreak, which is bad. But also with ocean cruises, they often have like measures they need to take if they reach a certain amount of people infected. For instance, you'll start noticing that there's more hand sanitizer around, or there are more cleaning of the rails and things like that, handrails and things like that. So just more cleaning practices in place, which doesn't really matter much for COVID, but for things like norovirus and things like that, that's really important. So why I still cruise and the precautions that I take. So I like it because it has more wheelchair accessible options. There are wheelchair accessible shore excursions, so I don't have to worry if when getting off the ship I'm going to find something that's not wheelchair accessible. Also, there's different types of wheelchair accessible cabins. So there's like ambulatory accessible cabins for people who are part-time wheelchair users like me, and then there are fully accessible cabins for people who need all of that accessibility options. Yeah, so I like it because it's easier to pace than a land trip with multiple destinations. I don't have to pack and unpack. My bed literally comes with me. If for some reason I'm not feeling like going on a port, I can still enjoy myself on my balcony cabin and looking out the window and things like that. So it's just more laid back, and it's a lot easier for me to be able to pace with my chronic illness. And also, yeah, the food comes with me too. I'm a ship person. I like watching YouTube videos of like ships, and like last night I watched a video of like a shipwreck dive, which was really interesting. I just like the ocean, and I just like being out in the open ocean, and I like sailing. And honestly, the benefit of the joy that it brings me, and also the benefit of being able to pace myself better with my chronic illness on a cruise outweighs the risk to me personally. Personally is the word I want to like highlight here, because like it may not for you, and that's totally fine. You may not like cruising as much as I do, and that's totally okay. You might think that the risk is too much, and that's completely fine. It's definitely a subjective thing. So here are my precautions and the tips. So before the trip, book a cabin with a balcony facing the ocean. This is extremely important for air circulation and to keep you sane if you were wearing a mask everywhere else. Pick a cruise ship with lots of outside dining options or good in-room dining. Again, this varies ship to ship, more so than cruise line to cruise line. So if you're booking it yourself, I highly recommend that you look at the actual like cruise deck plan for the ship you're thinking of, or looking at YouTube and finding a good like guide around the ship, so you know the spaces that are there. Pick a itinerary with nice weather for outdoor activities and onshore outdoor dining. Get good travel insurance and make sure it covers most, if not all, the fare for cancellations due to illness. You will also want to make sure that it covers any itinerary changes if you become sick while on vacation. You could also consider cancel for any reason insurance. It doesn't cover the whole trip if you cancel for any reason, but it will cover up to at least 80%. That's the one that I usually quote. And bring antivirals and meds in case you get sick. They don't have antivirals on cruise ships. I learned that the hard way. My primary doctor prescribes it for me. You may have to date multiple doctors until you find one that will give it to you without a current COVID diagnosis. Unfortunately, that's just how it is. Okay, so the next thing is a video of my packing list. And I posted it on social media like a year ago, and so I thought this was good. This is what I packed before a cruise. I wish there was sound, but there's no sound. Okay. Also on the little bullet list, I put I don't even know how to say it, Exacova. I don't know if a doctor will prescribe it for me or not. I don't know if you've probably heard about it. It's the thing that the new medication that came out that you can take if you think you were exposed to COVID that helps prevent you from getting COVID. Yeah, we'll see if I can get that. Here's what I take in case I get COVID. Yeah, and so a lot of these things that I got from this blog article, I need to see if there's something updated that this doctor wrote that had a bunch of list of studies that showed what helped in reducing the effects of COVID and preventing long COVID symptoms. So that's where I got stuff like green tea extract, PEA, nattokinase. I think that's how you say it. So yeah, and then also metformin, and of course antivirals. Okay, so during your trip, constantly run a good HEPA filter in your cabin. Run it before you first take off your mask. And honestly, I kind of run it the whole time. I'm not really worried about the battery or anything like that. I just kind of keep it plugged in. And so, yeah, bring a HOCl spray and wipe everything down in your cabin. This isn't for COVID so much, but for the dreaded norovirus, which is always lurking on some cruise ship somewhere. Keep the snoozing sign on your cabin door for the duration of the trip so the attendant doesn't come in. If you would like, add a note on the door stating that you are worried that sorry, got tongue twisted. If you would like, add a note on the door stating that you are immunocompromised and not to come in, or let them know beforehand in case you're worried that they will think you were trying to avoid tipping or something. But honestly, I've always just kept the snoozing sign on the door and it's been fine. I know some cruises, I I know MSC cruises, they require an attendant to come into the door at some point. I just heard about that. I've never experienced myself. I don't go on those MSC cruises personally. So, yeah. And then when you get on board, look for outdoor nooks and crannies where there are few people. You can also watch cruise vlogs and research ahead of time. That way you have a public space to retreat to if you don't want to constantly be in your room. Most cruise ships have outdoor places on the ship that aren't popular or people don't know they're there. For instance, a lot of cruise ships have like little like nooks off of the jogging track that not many people know about. And those are outdoor places and are good places to hang out if you want to be away from people. If you want the traditional cruise dining experience, sometimes I will dabble in it if the cases are low. Usually I do that on the last day of my cruise, so if I get sick from it, I'm not sick on the cruise. But what I do is I choose a time when the restaurant first opens. That is usually when they are the least busy. I don't know why, but people like to eat later on cruises. And then I place the laminal, I think it's called laminal, I don't know, air purifier directly in front of me when eating. That is, I forget what it's called, but it was on the video. It is specifically made not to like clean the whole room, but to clean the specific like airspace in front of it. I like them. Wash your hands before and after. And then after I eat, I usually gargle CPC mouthwash and rinse my nose with a nasal spray or saline wash. There's been mixed reviews on whether nasal sprays work. I don't know. And the same for CPC mouthwash, honestly. To me, it doesn't seem like there's any risk, especially for nasal rinses. Yeah, just do your own research. When outside of your cabin, utilize the SIP mouse valve. And then hand sanitizer does not kill norovirus, so wash your hands. Okay, so that is my presentation on cruises. I want to go over, just talk about group trips for like 5 minutes, talk about my group trip planning, and then afterwards, I'll open up to the group for if anyone has any sort of questions about my presentation. And then if anyone has any group trip ideas, land trips, anything is fine. We can talk about that too. So first off, custom group trip planning. So if you want to just do your own group trip and then just post it on the Facebook group, that's completely fine. You don't have to involve me or anything. But if you do want help planning a group trip, and if you do want my advertising services and my planning services, then this would apply. So these are all the perks of working with me, basically. Secure payment methods, legally binding contracts, and also I've done a lot of training on how groups work in the industry and things like that. So my policies are all groups must have a group leader. A group leader is basically responsible for coming up with the trip ideas, working with me to make decisions, and serving as an on-site contact for other group members during the trip. If you don't want to be the on-site contact, and if you don't want to be like the leader in the group, I can come with, but I will charge an extra fee, a much larger fee, just to cover my travel expenses and the work that I do on site. The group leader must pay the group leader's fees before I make a proposal and do any significant research. They must also sign my group leader contract. These are non-refundable. And then all participants must agree to group contract. And like I said, you can still coordinate through Facebook group. That's fine. And one main rule that I have is no home rentals or space where it cannot be held for free. So if you find this really nice hotel or like this really nice home rental that you want to rent out as like a sort of trip, like a COVID conscious group trip, but they need a deposit in order to hold that space, you will, as a group leader, either need to pay the deposit or I'm not going to advertise it. I've had a lot of issues where I've advertised rentals and then they ended up being booked and taken, and I've learned from that, and so now I'm only doing spaces that can be held for free, unless you pay the deposit, or just unless you pay the deposit. Thank you. This is my contact information, and then also just a reminder, if you would like free travel magazines delivered by mail, I still don't have enough people. If you'd like, you can put in your mailing address using the QR code, and if you need the link to it, you could just email me or message me. That's fine.